I'm so excited to be here with Andy Rooks, Chief Marketing Officer for Just Salad. Andy, welcome to CMO Pulse.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I want to start with a topic that is near and dear to my heart that I was really excited was a big narrative thread for you as well, is the interplay between creativity and data. I'm going to dive right in for the heart of what I'm hoping for here. Can you tell me a little bit about your thinking around, do these worlds collide? Can they be friends? And what, if anything, can creative learn from data and vice versa?
Well, this is the holy grail of marketing, right? This has been the promise of digital marketing since its inception, which is using data-informed not only targeting and placements, but also creative. And, I always say that data is only as valuable as your ability to do something with it. And so how do we make our data, how do we make our business intelligence, our consumer insight, how do we do something with that? And one of the things that I've taken from my career path is to actually take data and use it to inform creative, and to take that intelligence and use it to inform creative strategy in a real way. A lot of people talk the talk, and I try to walk the walk. And one of the ways that I do that is by actually having everybody do the research and everybody do the creative. So it's a large collaborative process. I'm of the mindset that anybody can be a creative person. You're not born with a special talent. Everybody's born with an imagination. So if you've got that, you can do creative work too. It's just about setting up the right kind of framework and structure for you to work within in order to accomplish that. So the research team and the creative team are not separate; they're the same. And it kind of goes both ways too. So the creative team, the folks that went to school for writing and things like that, I have them go out and do the research as well and do the data collection as well. Obviously, there are quantitative skills that are there, but everybody should at least be able to have a conversation with someone. And talking to customer is a great data point that you can get. And so everybody is very, very close to all the sources, and we talk together as if there's no boundary between the two. And I really think that's what it's all about, is accepting the idea that we can be multifaceted and taking advantage of that and bringing everybody together in a space to share thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, it's incredible how you've crystallized like the actual practicality of bringing the two together. Because yes, I think that as an industry, we often talk a good game about how important it is and, data-backed creative and all of that. But when you actually dig in, it's hard to find precise examples of how it's worked. So along those lines, what has been one case example, perhaps, whether it's one of your clients when you were running your own company, or, perhaps in one of your roles, where you've really found that collaboration actionable and where you did something about it?
Yeah, I can think of a great example from Just Salad, and this is a recent example. One of the main pillars of our brand, another place where we walk the walk, is sustainability. And I'm happy to go into speaking about how we communicate sustainability and how we bring that into our brand. Love talking about that. But in terms of bringing data in, we wanted to understand for a very specific program how consumers interacted with it and thought about it, so we could get them to do more of that. And the program I'm speaking about is our Reusable bowl program. We've had this program around for 15 years. If you are a customer of Just Salad, you likely know that we have these brilliant blue bowls that you can bring in and reuse. And whenever you do, you get a free topping. And we also know that our bowl customers are our best customers. They are evangelists for the brand. They really believe in our mission of sustainability. And they also know a good deal when they see one. So they're our loyalists. This is our core. These are the customers we want to take care of the most. And one of the questions that I have coming on is, how do we get more of these people? How do we get more customers to become our bowl customers? And how do we let people know that reusables are a really important thing to do for the future of our planet? So we did a piece of research. So we'll always start with research. And I had my creative team go and do this piece of research where we asked customers kind of their attitude about reuse. What's stopping you from using a reusable bowl? Is it the fact that I didn't know it existed? Is it about the fact that I know it's there, but I don't think it really makes an impact? Is it about, I know this is good, but I can't really figure out how to make it a part of my life yet? Or maybe it's, I already use reusables, I just don't use yours. So we went out and we talked to customers about this, and I had everyone on the creative team and our sustainability team and a few other folks from our operations team even come in and discuss our findings from this. And we used this data point. What we found was that the largest segment of our customers, 40% of our customers, actually knew the benefits of reusables, and they wanted to use reusables, but they just didn't know how to make it part of their daily routine. They didn't think that it was easy. And that leading insight of, I want to do this, but it's just kind of hard, became a very simple change that we instituted into our creative. So now when we talk about our reusable bowl program, we are very sure to mention right up front, this is easy. This is a habit you can do. Look, it fits right in your backpack. This is a great bowl. It sits on your desk. It fits into your life. And so that insight became not only directly how we spoke, but it also became part of our operation. Now we tell people when we introduce our bowl program, there's a curious customer says, what is that all about? We say, oh, it's really easy. This is the first thing you say. So that one piece of research that everybody collaborated on became this one piece of creative that everybody collaborated on. And it had a tremendous business result too. We sold a lot of bowls as a result. Our bowl usage went way up after we instituted that change. So I hope that's a good example.
I love it. I mean, what I love about it too is that I think that sometimes when people think about creative, data-backed creative, it's a very paint by numbers thing, right? It's, the fear is an analyst coming up and being like, no, you need to be close up on a woman's face with orange, or whatever. But this is really where the insight became the inspiration for the campaign and sort of a lens to understand the consumer more that your creatives could then take action on. For any creative who might be listening and heard you say, I had my creative team go and do the research, those were your exact words. Can you tell us a little about what you brought into the culture of your teams, where that was the first sentence out of your mouth when you talked about this case study?
Yeah, the culture is one of curiosity and one of growth. And I was actually just speaking with someone on my team about how important personal growth is. It's more about people than it is about tasks that we're doing. And so when I have my team, it's much more important to me that you're challenging yourself as an employee and that you're finding that growth. Because heaven forbid you find yourself in a role that you're bored of and you're just coasting. That's not fun for anybody. Or that you find yourself in a role that you're way over your head, you're challenged too much. So you got to find that right balance. But back to your original question, how did I approach this? So I've got my brand manager, I've got my visual identity director, I've got people who aren't even in marketing in the room. How do I say we all have to do this research? It's about cultivating a culture where it's okay to be curious. It's okay to not have the right answer. And that's something that I really like to strive for. So I say a lot, there are no bad ideas, there's only bad execution. And that takes the pressure way off the bad ideas. So, let's generate 10 ideas of something and the first 7 are going to be really bad. So no pressure, just get them down. It's taking that pressure off. So you don't have to be a college professor to know how to do a survey, or you don't have to be, trained in visual arts to come up with a good creative idea. So it's creating a culture where it's okay to have the wrong idea, and that helps people be more confident, want to speak up, and great ideas come from all over the place. It doesn't just come from the expert, especially in creative. Creativity is all about thinking about things differently. So how are you going to think about things differently if you don't get different opinions? So anyway, that's what I like to do in the room with folks is just, say it's okay to make mistakes here. There's no pressure. No one, and make sure that it's okay to say the wrong idea, because that gets us to the right idea. And it applies to research and it applies to creativity as well. So it's kind of taking that fundamental and spreading it across. Now you might be thinking, oh, but you can have the wrong math answer, right? Like you can actually solve an equation wrong. There's a wrong answer, right? But when you get really steeped in research, it becomes more and more subjective, much more of an art than an exact science. And the more research you do, the more you learn about it, the more you know how imprecise it is. And so we look at things through many different lenses when we do research. So I really always have been a strong believer in qualitative plus quantitative. They have to go together. There are drawbacks in both of those. There are lots of drawbacks to surveys that I could list for a long time. And there are lots of drawbacks to qualitative work. Like, does this scale? Does this apply to everyone? What's going on? You have to kind of hedge across all of those things and to find that one through line insight. Make sure that you're taking care of the pitfalls of one particular methodology by doing a little of a lot. And that's how you can find that through line, that one insight. Our customers need to know using a bowl fits into your life. It's easy. That becomes a through line insight that then translates very beautifully into creative. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it sure does. And creating that space for the creatives to figure out how that line comes across and how you get there, as opposed to, I think, some of the earlier nightmarish scenarios of data back creative, which was, again, I come back to that paint by numbers thing, which right. I think created a lot of industry trauma.
Oh, yeah. And it's not saying like, oh, please do a regression analysis and tell me, the beta values on this. It is literally saying, what do you see? What do you hear? Empathize with the customer. What are they feeling right now? Take a look at these survey results. What's standing out to you? Why do you think this is happening? Take a guess. Your guess could be wrong, but that's how you find that's a hypothesis, right? So again, it's just taking the pressure off, demonstrating that it's not hard to do, and that if you think critically, you can have the skills to do that on the research side or on the creative side.
Yeah. And what I love about your approach here too, which is something that I think a lot about, in my job running a social analytics company, my day job rather. I don't know if this is my night job, this is still day, but where you go, a big part of it is just demystifying it. And I think a lot of people can get frustrated by data because they don't get the answer or they don't know exactly what to do. And you're like, guess what? That's what it's about, right? It gives you clues and it gives you guidance and it gives you springboards, but then it's up to you to sort of jump in and sort of profess what it could mean and have some hypotheses and, to your point, be wrong. And that, it's like, how can data be wrong? How can you have data and be wrong? And you're like, welcome to data, Right. Well, so data is an answer. And I've had people in my career very frustratingly say, here's a data set. Tell me what you find in here. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? It's being a really good analyst is not actually about doing great magic things in spreadsheets and in R. It's about asking really good questions. Yeah. So the best analysts and the best research comes from those really great questions. And again, anybody can ask a really good question, especially if you are coming at it from a new approach. If you haven't seen a topic before, you may ask a question that seems super obvious to you, but the rest of the room may not have ever thought of.
And that's where the magic is in the question. It's not in the answers. It's the questions you ask of the data. That's so important.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And if you're sitting back passively and just hoping that it both asks a question and answer it, you're going to be sitting there for a while.
Or you're going to be playing
I love it.
By number, like you said. And certainly early in my career, I was on one side of painting by number. I was prescribing those sorts of creative recommendations. And
it would be a lot cleaner if that were the way to get it done, right? Imagine if it could just be done like arithmetic, but unfortunately it's a little trickier than that. But I would love to dive in this. I mean, you were, I think, one of the trailblazers around thinking through insights, particularly when it comes to social media and social media data sets. I know you were then an entrepreneur and you sort of launched your own company where you developed this creativity and data framework. Can you talk a little bit about how your experiences shape your perspective as Chief Marketing Officer now? And, what perhaps were some of the most important learnings that inform how you do your role today?
That's a great question. Some of the biggest learnings throughout my career to get here. Well, certainly, as I mentioned, I started out by prescribing paint by number insights for creative and in the social space. I was very early in on social media when companies were starting to look at that as a serious marketing channel. It became this optimization game. How do you get the most likes? How do you get the most engagement? And so I think a pivotal moment for me is I was prescribing these paint by number optimizations. Okay, you can make your creative do X, Y, Z, and we were moving the needle. But then, it always came back to this larger question. Whenever I get, was lucky enough to get in a room with someone senior enough, I was saying, why? Why do we want engagement? What's the point of all this? And that kind of brought me to have the same question. Yeah. What is the point of all this? What is the business case for a like on Facebook at the time? So that was very formative for me because I was asking a lot of questions of data. I was going through the motions of making better and better creative toward optimizing toward an outcome. But it wasn't necessarily moving the business, moving the brand, which then led me to kind of form my strong point of view on different pathways for insights. So using different methodologies and looking at things from different perspectives helps you find that why. Because you can ask what of data all day, but I mean, that's not going to answer the fundamental question. That's not going to grow your business. So that was particularly formative for me. And then in terms of running my own business and my own small consulting group, we very much took the practices that I do today at Just Salad and brought them to our clients. So creating this room and a situation where people were able to be creative, even if they didn't view themselves that way. People were able to have something to say and bring a new perspective in a safe environment. And we would work through business problems. How do you find a difference between you and your competitors? How do you view your long-term vision? How do you find the leverageable point of difference for your business? How do you define that? You'd be amazed at the different points of view even a small startup team would have. You'd think that everyone would be on the same page, but that's hardly ever the case. And so, yeah, and I brought kind of those fundamentals with me to Just Salad, where we're solving some very important problems. It sounds almost silly, like we sell salad and some warm bowls and wraps and smoothies and great products. But it is, part of our vision is we want to make everyday health possible, and we want to make everyday sustainability possible. And we want to make sure that people are able to have access to do the things that they want to do to create the future for themselves and for our planet that they want to see. And so it's just salad on its surface, but it's means a lot. And so one of the added benefits that I have as CMO is I have this very purpose-driven work now too. So that was very formative for me, and it helped me decide to move from being the head of my own consulting group to joining this, which is a very non-traditional move, but I've had a lot of those in my career. So yeah.
I love it. When you think about your role today, and knowing that you had begun approaching social media from a very prescriptive sort of perspective, now as CMO of, I think I told you my personal story of, my friend who had been in Paris, come back, and I was new in New York at the time. She's like, why didn't they have just salad in Paris? So a very loved brand. How do you approach social media today? And how do you approach some of the opportunities of many newer channels that perhaps weren't there when you were a social media analyst at the time, to vet which ones will or won't be right for your goals?
Yeah, I love this question. Because I basically started my career when social media was starting as a serious marketing channel. I have seen the birth and death of so many social media channels. Think about even the transformation that a massive platform like Facebook has had since its inception. It is constantly changing, and there's a new cool thing to do, it seems, every 6 months. Every 6 months, there's a new paradigm in social media marketing. And that has been the case for so long. So I really look at fundamentals. Like I watched Vine come and go. I watched Meerkat come and go. All these Yik Yak's probably not so much a thing anymore. And it's not necessarily, it's more about the fundamentals. So when I view a social media channel, it's an audience that it's a business asset of an audience that you can repeatedly talk to. And they're usually your core, in the case of our business, they're our core customer. Our loyalists are the people that follow us on social, the people that love our brand, your friend from Paris that brought their bowl with them, the people that love us follow us. So we want to make sure that we can continue to engage with them and say, thanks for being great customers. Here's what we're up to. Get them excited. And that's a lot of the value that we see in our own social channels today. I also look at it from like a top funnel perspective of, can we reach our audience effectively? So routinely we'll trial new platforms or platforms that we haven't been on before that aren't necessarily new, but they're new to us. And we'll try them out to say, how effectively did we reach our audience with our message? And by effectiveness, I mean, are they our audience? Were they able to see our message? And did they respond to that message even better? And so, that's typically what I'll look at in a social media platform. So it's not about the newest shiny object. It's the business object. What is our objective here? Do we want to delight our current customers? What's our most effective way to do that? If all of our customers live on a platform like TikTok, then great. We should be there to talk to them. And we'll engage with them where they are. And we'll continue to have that community space for them. Or will we reach new prospects? Will we be able to convince people to get a reusable bowl? If we reach them on this platform, yes. And how effectively can we do that? So it's not necessarily about form factor. It's not necessarily about tech capability. It really is, does this platform meet our business need? And it's really tempting to go after the latest cool thing and be a trend chaser. But having gone through many, many, many of these trends, I'm a little jaded on trend chasing, and I say, okay, we are here to grow a business. We're here to extend our mission and our purpose. So what is going to be the best tool for that? So I let the business objective, I let the mission guide the choice rather than the other way around. And it keeps me grounded, because I hear about new opportunities all the time. So it's just about focus.
Yeah, and it sounds like taking a real audience-centered approach to vetting some of those different opportunities as well. Now, that makes a lot of sense. So as you reflect across your career, and, it certainly hasn't been a traditional pathway to CMO, but I feel like that's true of many of the CMOs I talk with. What do you think has been the most influential decision in your career, and how does that impact you today?
I think the most influential decision that I have made in my career is probably to go off on my own and start my own business. I worked at many ad agencies, digital, creative, integrated media. I've run the gamut of the agency world. I have been in-house. I've been on product teams. I've been in research teams. I had some great managers and I had some not so great managers. And I saw, I wanted to run a company the way I thought it ought to be run. And I wanted to give it a shot. And there's nothing like actual experience that will be the teacher of that. So yeah, that decision to go off on my own was hugely influential. It set me on a completely different path. But what got me there is perhaps more important. I never grew up saying I want to run my own consulting group. It was not like necessarily an ambition of mine, but it grew out of a goal. And, thinking about my career trajectory, do I want to maximize earnings? Do I want to make the most money or have the highest title, or, kind of take that traditional path? I was on that path, and for me, something was missing. And so I had the thought experiment of, what would my life look like if I wasn't maximizing my earning potential? What would it look like if I was maximizing my personal growth? What if I wanted to keep learning and growing, and kind of something I was talking about earlier with making sure my team feels like they're growing too? What if I maximize personal growth? Where is the opportunity where I can learn the most in my career? And I thought a lot about it, and running my own business and running a business the way I thought it ought to be run, and learning a lot of industries and networking and meeting people, and spending my time maximizing what I know and who I know, rather than what I earn is in my bank account, turned out to be one of the most fulfilling periods of my career. And it led me to a path where I met a great client in Just Salad, and I came aboard, and very much brought aboard the philosophies of my own business that I was running to the team that I'm running now, and bringing it wider culturally to Just Salad. And so, yeah, it was down to a change in goal, not necessarily being opportunistic, not necessarily trend chasing, as we talked about. It's really thinking fundamentally, what do I want out of this? And the same thing goes, vetting social media channels to bring it all together, right? We're vetting social media channels based on what it does for the business. What's the goal? Not necessarily what does it do? So I went personally looking for what do I want out of life, and it brought me here.
I love that. How did you, so it sounds like you got clarity into what was most important, but there had to be some fear that went with that of holy smokes, I'm trading out maximizing my earnings, which I understand sounds very clinical, but it also keeps you safe and warm. How did you actually make the shift or was it just very clear once you got clarity on what was most important to you? And I ask this question because I know a lot of people right now are evaluating what's important in life and thinking about making these very big transformative changes. And so I wonder if your process could really be helpful as many of us think through that. Sure.
Well, I won't pretend to have all the answers, and I won't encourage you just quit your job today and start a company. If you're not ready or you're not the right person for that, Don't do that. It's a lot of risk. And it is, to me, actually, it was a shift in thinking about personal risk and what I valued. So what is riskier, doing the same thing every day and coasting in a career that has earnings, but being bored to death, versus learning, and it's almost riskier. It's riskier to sit and rest on your laurels, and that to me was part of that shift too. Is it's risky to be bored. It's risky to be safe. That is a recipe for a lack of fulfillment. There are lots of adages that are like, oh, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Like, no, you will definitely work. You will
still work.
You will still work. But it's truly thinking about, changing the focus of that direction toward personal growth, thinking about if I maximize my personal growth, it actually becomes a lot riskier to sit at a job where I'm coasting and I'm unhappy. So assessing that as well, it is risky to rest on your laurels. And so, don't be satisfied. I would say to someone that asks, don't be satisfied, with safety. Be satisfied. You can have a higher ambition than that. That's the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, I can get a roof over my head just fine. The rest is gravy. So, yeah.
I love that. No, I love that. So last question for you. What are you excited about right now? And this can be related to, we're not post-pandemic, but we're kind of emerging, slowly and more quickly in certain areas. But what are you most looking forward to as you look forward to 2022? And what's next?
I've been really heartened recently by the shift in values that we've seen from consumers and then also businesses' reactions to that, speaking generally about sustainability. And it's interesting how out of a health scare and out of a social crisis that sustainability would also come to the forefront. And I'm so glad that it is, because it's one of the biggest problems that we face as a planet today. And so consumers have said, we care about this, and businesses have listened. And now they're bringing it into their storytelling, they're enacting programs, and it's really heartening to see that. I'm glad that we as a business community have been able to react to that and stay on top. My hope is that is persistent and that it actually is a lasting, meaningful change, that we're able to continue to focus on it as a society. So I'm glad that people are waking up, businesses and people are waking up to this problem of the climate crisis. And let's do something about it, and let's stay on the ball and stay focused. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to most. And I'm looking forward to being a part of it. It's so important. It's always been a pillar of the Just Salad brand. And my goal as CMO is to make sure that we can continue to do it more and more. And so, that's definitely one thing I'm looking forward to in 2022. I think there's some new things like Google launched on its maps. You can get the lowest carbon emissions route. Yelp now has this business doesn't use plastic bags on it. And these things are happening every day, and these are great. I hope that we're able to walk the walk and continue in that vein, because it's so important.
And it's really interesting, because I feel like it's almost counterintuitive that when we were most fearful for ourselves, we suddenly became so much more conscious for others and for the world in general. It's like, I feel like a lot of popular wisdom says, well, when I fear for myself, I don't worry as much. So it is very heartening, as you put it, that was our collective reaction. And I join you on the hopes that it persists as things become more and more normal, and as we perhaps slip back into some of our old routines. Well, listen, Andy, such a pleasure to chat with you today. Really looking forward to staying in touch and hearing more about how all of this rolls out. And a reminder for me to go and get a salad. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Likewise, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. Great to chat. Always happy to talk data and creativity. So anytime.
Likewise.